Welcome to Revise and Resubmit, where we take cutting-edge research and try to break it down so you don't have to. I'm Pavlov, and with me as always,
Nikita.
Today we're talking about something you run into all the time.
Oh yeah, every day.
Time estimates.
Yeah.
Whether you're waiting for that food delivery or just, relying on your GPS, these little predictions are everywhere.
Totally.
But have you ever thought about how the format of these estimates, whether it's a single point or a range,
Oh yeah.
actually impacts your satisfaction?
I mean, does it make you more or less annoyed?
Exactly. And we've got some fascinating research from management science, published by the Institute for Operations Research and the Management Sciences.
Wow, that's a mouthful.
I know, right?
But sounds important.
It is. It turns out that the format of those time estimates can actually impact how satisfied you are with the service, even if the outcome's the same.
It's wild. Think about it, right? Are
Yeah.
you happier seeing your food will arrive in 30 minutes or your food will arrive in 35 minutes?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Right. And that's exactly what this research dives into. They ran, get this, 8 experiments with over 5,000 people.
Okay, so 5,000 people. That's a lot of data.
It is a lot of data. They really went all out.
So what do they do in these experiments? Paint me a picture.
Sure. They created these simulated scenarios using a food delivery app or you're following GPS directions.
Okay, relatable.
Right. And they'd show people either a point estimate like 30 minutes or a range, 35 minutes for things like delivery times.
Makes sense.
Then they'd reveal the actual outcome and compare how people felt. How satisfied were they with the app?
Interesting. So did they find that people just preferred ranges because they were statistically more likely to be correct?
Well, it's a bit more nuanced than that.
Oh.
Yeah, you see, people consistently rated the app higher when they got a range, even if the actual outcome sometimes fell outside that range.
Really? That's surprising.
It is. So it's not just about being right or wrong. It's about how that format shapes your expectations.
Okay, so it's like a mental thing. A range prepares you, maybe, for the unexpected.
Exactly. The researchers call it expectation violation. A point estimate sets you up for a very specific outcome, so any deviation, even a tiny one, can feel like a letdown.
Makes sense.
But a range basically acknowledges there's a margin of error, right? There's uncertainty baked in.
So it's like a mental buffer.
Right. Think about those times you're anxiously watching the clock, waiting for that pizza.
Oh, I know that feeling.
If the app said 30 minutes and it's 31, you're like, where is it?
Yeah.
But if it said 25 to 35, you're more chill, even if it comes at 36.
Right. You're less likely to be annoyed, even if it's technically late.
Exactly. And this isn't just a hunch. They actually tested this. They asked people to imagine a range of possible delivery times. Those who got a range estimate up front pictured a much wider spread of possibilities.
Oh, wow. So the format really does shape how we think about it.
It really does. They even confirmed this difference was statistically significant using, some fancy statistical analysis.
Fancy. So we're less surprised, maybe even less annoyed, if things run a bit behind when there's a range involved.
Oh, yeah.
It's not that we hate point estimates, it's just,
Yeah,
they kind of make us less adaptable.
exactly. They box us in.
Okay, so less adaptability when there's a point estimate. And the impact of this is actually pretty huge, right?
Oh, absolutely. Imagine if your GPS always gave you point estimates.
Oh, no.
Even a small delay would start to feel like a major inconvenience.
And you would start to lose trust in the GPS.
Exactly. It's not just about that initial satisfaction. It's about customer loyalty, repeat business. Everything's connected.
It all comes back to trust.
Exactly. Trust and managing expectations. Now get this. There's another study in this research. They took this concept even further.
Oh.
Yeah, so they designed a task where people could earn a bonus, based on how accurately they estimated the time it'd take to finish it.
Okay, so now there are actual stakes involved. This isn't just your pizza order anymore.
Right, exactly.
I'm hooked. What happened?
Okay, so the twist is they gave people a choice. They could get advice from a model that gave, point estimates.
Okay.
Or a model that gave range estimates.
Interesting. Which one do you think they preferred?
Well, if you've been following along, I think you can guess.
I'm going to say ranges.
Ding, ding, ding. You got it. Woohoo. A whopping 70% of the participants chose the range model.
Wow, 70%. That's a lot.
It is. It means people inherently, really value that uncertainty information, even when there's a potential reward on the line.
It's they'd rather have a realistic range to work with than a potentially misleading single point.
Exactly. Transparency and acknowledging the limits of prediction.
Right. It's a better strategy overall. So we've been talking about, food delivery and GPS, where those time estimates are driven by external things right, outside our control.
Yeah.
But what about estimates we make for ourselves?
Yeah.
Like projects at work, planning our day, even setting personal goals.
Right.
How does this all apply?
Oh, well, that's where things get really interesting.
Okay, tell me more.
There's a whole field of research on how we perceive and manage time.
Oh, yeah?
And, well, let's just say us humans aren't exactly known for our accuracy.
Oh, no. So we're terrible at estimating time for ourselves. That's just great.
Well, maybe not terrible, but we definitely have our biases.
Okay, so is there a silver lining here?
There is. Awareness is the first step, right?
Right.
This research, this whole point versus range thing, it can actually give you a framework.
Oh, that's interesting.
Instead of clinging to those overly optimistic single points, you can start building in mental ranges, those buffers for the unexpected.
So instead of saying, I'll finish this presentation by 5 p.m., I should think, realistically, it could be anywhere between 4:30 and 6 p.m., depending on distractions.
Yeah, exactly. It's about acknowledging that life rarely goes exactly according to plan.
Life never goes according to plan.
Right. And by building in that flexibility, you might actually reduce stress and increase your chances of, success.
So I'm not aiming for perfection in prediction, but a realistic range of possibilities.
Very nice.
Okay, this is making me rethink my entire to-do list.
Good.
Embrace the range, got it. Now, there was one thing that I found really interesting. We talked about how we hate it when a time estimate is wrong. Right?
Yeah.
But they found this feeling, it's not symmetrical, is it?
You're right. It's not. We don't react the same way to being overestimated as we do to being underestimated.
Interesting.
Think about it. How do you feel when your food delivery arrives early?
Ooh, happy. A nice surprise. Like a bonus.
Right. But when it's late?
Oh, then I'm frustrated.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the research backs this up. They looked at people's reactions to estimates that were intentionally optimistic, conservative, or right in the middle.
Oh, interesting. So now we're not just comparing ranges versus points, but where those estimates fall within the possible range.
Exactly.
Okay, what did they find?
They found people didn't mind conservative estimates that much,
Interesting.
even if it meant waiting a bit longer. Seems like we're more willing to be pleasantly surprised than disappointed.
So we're kind of hedging our bets.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to put it.
We'd rather be oh, yay, it's early, than, it's late.
Right. And this has implications for how companies, even individuals, set time estimates.
Oh, so.
Maybe a little intentional overestimation isn't such a bad thing.
Yeah.
As long as it's within reason.
Right, of course, we don't want to wait 3 hours for a 30-minute pizza.
Exactly.
But a little buffer, a bit of wiggle room can go a long way.
Right. Managing those expectations.
So are companies going to have to rethink those guaranteed delivery by promises?
Who knows?
Would a more realistic range actually make customers happier?
It's a good question. I think it highlights how the way we present information is super important.
Well, for sure.
Sometimes acknowledging limitations, embracing that uncertainty,
Yeah.
well, that could be a strength.
Okay, we've covered a lot. Ranges are generally better than point estimates when it comes to time. And it's not just for things outside our control, right? We can use this for our own personal time management too.
Absolutely. And don't forget, too much vagueness isn't the goal either.
Right.
A range that's too wide becomes meaningless.
Right. It's about finding that sweet spot. Right?
Exactly. Accuracy, but still useful.
Now, one last question about the research.
Sure.
They used examples like food delivery, GPS, things we can all relate to. But did they look at other contexts?
Oh, yeah, they did.
Ooh.
They tested this idea with GPS navigation, too. Those estimated arrival times.
Right.
And people were more satisfied when the app gave a range of possible times, even if those ranges weren't always perfect.
Makes sense. We've all experienced that frustration when the GPS is just way off.
Exactly.
So this preference for ranges, it seems to hold up in different situations.
It does. Suggests there's something about how we process information, especially when it comes to time.
Time is tricky.
It is. And acknowledging uncertainty, it makes us feel more comfortable.
Okay, that makes sense. Makes me wonder if there are other areas where we could apply this.
Yeah.
What about project deadlines at work?
Oh, interesting.
Or even personal goals.
Yeah.
Using ranges instead of just these fixed points help us manage expectations.
Yeah.
Make things less stressful.
It's a really good point. Think about how you approach those project deadlines.
Okay.
Do you give yourself that hard and fast deadline? Or is there some flexibility built in?
Yeah, I see what you mean.
This research suggests that allowing for a range, even in your own planning, could be, well, more effective and less stressful.
So instead of saying, I'll finish this report by Friday, I could say, I'm aiming to have it done, sometime between Thursday and Monday.
Exactly.
That feels a lot less, daunting. It acknowledges that, things might not go perfectly to plan.
And they never do.
They never do.
Right. So by shifting your mindset to embrace that range of possibilities, you're less likely to be, thrown off by those unexpected delays or setbacks.
Oh, yeah, totally. You're more prepared.
And you might even find that you're more productive and less stressed in the long run.
Ooh, win-win. Okay, this has been a really eye-opening conversation.
Yeah.
It seems like, wow, something as simple as changing how we think about how we communicate these time estimates can really make a difference.
Yeah.
In our satisfaction and, our well-being.
For sure.
So what's the key takeaway for our listeners today?
Well, I think this deep dive has given us all some things to think about. Next time you see a time estimate, really pay attention to the format.
Okay, yeah.
Does it give you that sense of realistic possibility, or does it set you up for disappointment?
Right.
More importantly, think about your own time estimates. Are you being overly optimistic? Are you building in that buffer, that wiggle room for the unexpected? Maybe try experimenting with ranges instead of those fixed points. See if it makes a difference.
Yeah, I know I will. See if I can lower my stress levels, maybe boost my productivity. It's definitely something to try. Well, this has been a fascinating deep dive. Thanks for joining us for this conversation. It's really made me think about time in a whole new way.
Glad to hear it.
And don't forget to subscribe to Revise and Resubmit on Spotify and Apple Podcasts for more captivating deep dives like this one. And if you're enjoying the show and want to support us in creating more insightful content, consider becoming a patron on Patreon. Every contribution helps us continue this journey of exploration and discovery. Until next time, keep those minds curious, keep questioning, and keep revising and resubmitting.